out where we're from. Where are you folks from?
Here.
Right here?
Well, we lived here 5
That's
years, but she's originally from Montana, your granddaughter.
You lived here in Palmer or
In
Wasilla?
Palmer.
You lived in Palmer. Wonderful. And where are you folks from?
Between Palmer and Wasilla, Palmer-Wasilla Highway.
It's so nice that you're out in your backyard today. How about you folks?
Miami, Florida.
Wonderful.
Delaware.
Oh, we don't see many people from Delaware.
Nope.
Okay, and,
That's good.
my name is Elaine, and I'm your volunteer today for your tour. I'm a retired school teacher from Lower Yukon School District. I taught in small villages for 27 years. On the end of the Yukon, where the Yukon breaks and goes into the Bering Sea, I can see Russia better from my kitchen window than Sarah can see Russia from her kitchen window. I'm a graduate of East Anchorage High School. I'm a Hinderberg. I'm a T-bird from 66 and 16 in the Good Friday Earthquake, which you might have read about on Camp Scout. I'm going to try and satisfy your curiosity, so think of as many questions as you can. If I can't answer them, they're my homework. And if I can, it's my pleasure. Let's go right out here on the porch.
Dog. Sarcastic.
I don't know how you do this, but this is our third straight beautiful day like this. And when I say beautiful, you're not getting wet. And your feet aren't getting wet yet because we're not trudging through the snow. But up here also in the morning and late evening when the mist comes in, it's surreal and wonderful also. The sun will go behind Granite Mountain here, and then it will hug the horizon. And on the other side, the sun will send a shaft of light down the Palmer. And the light effect and the effect of the fog and the mist is just otherworldly. So I hope you get up here early one morning or come again on a misty day and have a different look. You can see some green coming out. We were here just 1 week ago to open up the facility, and we had no green up here. And we only had green on the Archangel side of the mountain, where it got most of the sun. Like I said, that shaft comes back there in the late afternoon. Y'all know where Hap lives? Hap is an old ham radio operator, so if any of you have a ham radio operator, stop by Hap's down here and get his ham. He's quite a character, well known up here. His place has been an urban legend and Idiots Abroad and some other TV shows over the years. We just had the Department of Interior call and ask if they could license a movie outfit to come up to make a horror flick up here. So with that mist and the fog and they want to go into the mine, that's going to be a great movie for us. Now if y'all turn around, I'll get you started on Independence Mine. You're looking at Skyscraper Mountain on the left,
Dog, I'm sorry.
Granite Mountain on the right, and in between all of that comprises 83 claims that were taken over by Alaska Pacific Consolidated, so they could mine gold here. Now, they mine gold here because FDR set the gold price at $35 an ounce. And they rubbed their hands because it had been $20 an ounce. Americans had been told to turn in all their gold. It would be illegal. It would be illegal rather to have gold. So only the outlaws and the people that did not obey the law made the $15 difference per ounce of gold that they held on to. That's the way it is sometimes. We're going to go and meander between these buildings. We're going to go into 4 buildings, and I want you to ask lots of questions because that's the best tour that you can have. Is get your curiosity satisfied. Except for you. I don't understand your language. Okay, come this way. I'm just going to follow behind it.
No, I'm gonna follow behind. That way, I'm gonna follow behind, so shouldn't get anyone's way.
I definitely would have been an outlaw because I wouldn't give my gold up.
No.
I have the pleasure of introducing
Is that
you
gold
to
revenue?
Mrs. Peterson, who lived here in
I would not give it up.
1950, and we're actually going to go into her apartment complex that she once lived in. She knew quite a few of the old miners, and she knew Mr. Stoll's son Bill, who reopened up the mine in the early 1950s. And this is her friend, Mrs. Colbert, and her father-in-law was a doctor down in Palmer in the day. So you have some living history right here, if I could say that.
So may I ask, how was it living?
She was going to be a new mother at the time.
Yeah. So you didn't actually.
It was an adventure, yeah. We had the fourplex apartment, one, and it was very nice. It was cold, hot and cold running water, which was a big deal.
Yes, well, that's always a blessing.
And electricity. So those things we didn't miss, and once a week we made an order and participation of what we needed for food. And then they take the list down to Palmer and fill the order. And then on Friday we get our order back.
Okay. Thank you.
Interesting time.
And thank you. I'm going to try and find out more about your father. All right. This is Mr. Stoll's house in 1939. It did have electricity. It did have flush toilets, 3 flush toilets, 7 bedrooms, because there were no accommodations up here for the bigwigs and the VIPs. So Mrs. Stoll hosted them. There's the family portrait, as I said. Someone from the Netherlands the other day said, only 2 Americans can fit here now. But he said it in such a way differently.
Thank you.
Watch your step, Daniel.
Yeah.
We will go as fast as our slowest walker goes, and usually that's me. So you won't have any trouble. Let me point out some places before we go on that you can investigate yourself. You see a little house on the prairie, way against the wall of ground, wasteland. See the littlest house, the farthest house? That's the assay office, and it's open for you to go into and learn how the ore was processed. You see some you see 3 wooden pavilions up here overlooking the waterfall. That waterfall is at the water tunnel entrance to the Independence Mine. It's up a road right here where these folks are coming down. It winds up there, and that's a lovely, lovely walk with a great view of all the mountains and all the property down here. This is Dan Renshaw's place up here. This is the Gold Cord Mine. It's active. Dan Renshaw was here when he was 71. He's 72 now. His dad was the one that founded that mine up there. What you see in the front is actually not a mine. It's the mill where the ore is taken care of. And his mine is behind his house, which has a green roof. Yeah, the cross on the hill, no one is buried there, but it's in memory of a Renshaw that has passed away. I know just barely.
Okay, they don't close at 7.
They close at 9, and if you were ever to get gated in, there's an RV down there.
Okay, I'll be before that, that's all I want.
Don't worry.
Thank you very much. I can hike without worrying now.
That's right. Don't worry anyway. We'll let you out.
It's good to know.
Inside Independence Mine, 20 miles of
Oh,
passage.
you're a little hot.
And it was blasted 3 feet at a time. If you were a mucker, after the blast, you were the one that got a shovel and put all that muck in the tram cars or the gondolas. And there were aerial cables up there. And that's how the water was taken out of the mine until the water tunnel was constructed. And then everybody an electric cart to bring the ore down and right across the trestle there to the mill. Now, if you look at Skyscraper Mountain right here, you go Murphy's Law. That's the 900-foot level entry to Independence Mine back in the day. And there on the other side, I'm going to show you where the men went into work every day. Also 900 feet down from the top. The men lived in an old bunkhouse, and then later on, these two bunkhouses were constructed. Mr. Stoll didn't want a black house, or a black card house, or a tin roof. He wanted cherry colors, so he picked red for trim and this kind of a silvery white kind of paint. It's really lovely in a full moon. Down below here, there was a theater, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays for 15 cents, families from Boomtown, which we'll talk about later, and the miners from the bunkhouses could come over and watch movies, like Blondie on a Budget, Doctor Takes a Wife, How to Play Tennis, and a lot of prospecting. When the state purchased this property in 1981, they had to make a decision on buildings to be safe. What's too far gone beyond repair? So around buildings that are in good
Hawk. Oh no, as a crow. Raven. Chicken. Soul chicken.
Okay, we can see the other entrance now. Come at least right here. On the edge of the bunkhouse right here, you see some wood laying on the side of that little brown mountain. Do you see what looks like ladder rungs? Okay, that's the old covered stairwell that the men had to go in every day to go to work. Way up there where you see some other wood laying against the side of a rock face that has snow on the left. Do you see that way up there? 22 flights of stairs, 22 stories of rungs.
Oh,
So the cook didn't want to come down every day, and some of the welders didn't want to come down every day. So on both faces of the 900, they bolted buildings. And 48 men could go to the dining room that was bolted on the side of Granite Mountain. There's a picture of it, you know, in the visitor center on the wall upstairs in the hallway. Any questions? Let's go to school.
You're going through this. No. Wow.
yeah, you tripping?
No, I just stepped off the side there, looking up the mountain there.
Whoa, that's nice. That's slippery. It's slippery. be seated.
Students, have a seat. Oh, shoot. This is a photograph of Boomtown. I'm gonna keep my voice really low. You don't wanna wake up anybody up there. If we make too much noise, that's what you'll hear up there. Oh, Lord. This is Boomtown, and the men were allowed to build homes if they had families in Boomtown using materials that they found around here. Free materials. They had free fuel, diesel fuel. They had electricity, free. And I was just told by Mrs. Peterson that you met that some of them did have flush toilets, which we didn't know, or at least I did not know. And they had children. So at first we had no school because there were not enough children. The children that were up here came with the superintendent or the manager, someone who was setting up the camp, getting everything ready. And then those same children later on would be the last ones to leave because the superintendents and all the VIPs were the last ones to turn out the lights and walk away. But finally we had enough children to go to school here. They hired a Mr. Dickey. All grade levels attended this classroom right here from age 6 to grade 10. And Mr. Dickey was a fisherman. Now he was a commercial fisherman, which means he also made money fishing. He caught lots of fish. He had fish traps. So the children here would have to go to school on Saturdays sometimes and late into the day because he wanted to be out of school by April to do commercial fishing, and that's what they did. They didn't like it too well, but they had the greatest playground out there in Alaska. They could ski, skate, sled, and make a lot of noise when they got away from the bullpen up there. But at first, there was a little girl here all by herself named Dorothy. And her dad, Roy Lynch, lived in the same apartment complex as Mrs. Peterson that we just met. And we'll see that in a few minutes. And Dorothy finally got a friend that moved in, and her name was Naomi. Naomi was a little bit smaller than Dorothy, and Dorothy loved to try on Naomi's clothes. The problem is, Dorothy liked to eat. She'd go to the cookhouse and have pies and donuts and cake and then go home and have dinner. And the guys would buy her candy. And she was getting a little bit bigger, and her mom was not liking it. And Naomi wanted to share her clothes, but all of a sudden Dorothy wasn't fitting in some of the clothes. So Mom put an end to all this extra food. But Dorothy was very enterprising. She would carry a stick around. She would tap on the baker's window, and he would slide donuts down on that stick. Well, she still didn't learn her lesson. Naomi had a birthday. And for her birthday, she didn't have a cake. She had a lemon pie, because this guy named Russ Dow was good about bringing lemons up here. And so there was a big piece of pie on the plate, and there was a small piece of pie on the plate. And just Naomi and Dorothy was at this party because, like I said, not enough kids lived here yet. And the two moms and the baker were there. Well, Naomi should have had that biggest piece. Dorothy knew that. But Dorothy, guess what? She took the biggest piece. She took a great big bite of her piece. And the baker was smiling. And guess what? He had baked a bunch of string in her piece. And Dorothy wrote in her memoirs, never trust a baker and never take the biggest piece. I think she learned her lesson. But after a while, enough children went here with a couple of families supplying most of the children. And that's been my experience out in the bush too. We have some large families, and they would move to another village, and all of a sudden you had a lot more kids in your school to take care of. And that's what happened here. Now, after Mr. Dickey, there was a Mr. Brown. But I got to tell you about this woman. I don't know her name. No single women were allowed up here. So they tapped the guy on the shoulder and said, can your wife go 1 year to school
come back with a teacher certificate and teach our children. That's what she did. She got certified in 1 year and came back. Of course, we have a map of Alaska right here. You guys know where you are today? You're up here, but back in the day, people did not come through Anchorage. There was no Anchorage until the war. Everyone came to Seward and by train up here to Wasilla. And that was the in and the out of it back in the day. This is the end of the Yukon where I used to work. People come to Anchorage, they want to know where the Yukon is because the Mississippi goes here, Missouri goes here, but the Yukon goes there, east-west. Any other questions about school of Boomtown, or about Dorothy, or about the kids?
And did it go all the way for them to graduate?
Yes, but back in those days, you'll recall that there were not 12 years of
Right.
school. Now, Dorothy did sometimes go to school here, but her mom had tried to homeschool her in first grade, and she writes her mom got headaches from that, actual headaches. So in second grade, she was sent to boarding school in Seattle, Washington, a Helen Bush school. So she also writes in her memoirs that she used to get on her sled and slide back to school in Palmer. Sled back to school in Palmer with her mom and her dad in a vehicle behind her supplying the headlights. She said in the Olympics she saw no other bobsled run better than the Fishhook bobsled run they had here. She was a speed demon. Now when the men came up here in World War II to learn how to ski to be rangers and scouts, or for R&R, she easily outskied them. And in 1956, I believe at age 25, she was married at the time, she was on our Olympic ski team. One of 12 children from here made the ski team on the Olympics. Isn't that marvelous?
I do have a question. What's the highest grade that would have been taught?
The highest I've seen is grade 10. And I think they would have gone and graduated in one where you had the War Department and I eventually closed down mine.
Okay.
But can you imagine trying to teach all grade levels? Pretty hard, huh?
Yeah.
Still do that in places here.
Yes, I taught K2 my last 2 or 3 years out there, but it's awesome because the older kids are such good peer teachers. And you know, all of a sudden I didn't tie shoes anymore. I need a second grader to help me out. Sure do. There's advantages. Well, let's go see where the men upstairs lived for a time before they had enough skills and before there were vacancies for them to move across to the firehouse. You can peek right here on the left and see where the teacher lived. And notice that the chair is constructed just by some old crates. You can
Beautiful, huh?
Now in this room, first and second shift were classes that the men could take. Sometimes the Bureau of Land Management would come up and teach classes, but they also had mineralogy classes. And that's because Independence Mine told the men, if you go out and prospect and find something that looks promising, we'll help you develop it. So they were interested in educating all their men. Some of the men took off in the summer and did that. They had to backpack all their food in, mosquitoes, bears, looking for rock, looking for quartz, and they would come back in the winter to get fattened up, they said. And then they'd go out and repeat it the next summer. Other men, most of the men stayed here year-round. The mine was operated 323 days of the year, and guess which 2 days they had off? Who knows? Christmas. Gotta get both of them. What days did they have off? Christmas
4th of July.
and the 4th of July. You and a sticker. Okay. But guess who has to work the 4th of July this year? The volunteers.
You do.
Yeah. But that's okay. This is the teacher's bathroom, the kids' bathroom. The men upstairs, we're going to find out, had to go all the way down to the basement where they cleaned up and had showers. Okay, we're going to the bull room. Go ahead. See
you can find a story on the wall. There's some stories on the walls up there.
Story on the wall.
Not exactly graffiti, but things on the wall they left behind. It might give a hint at some of the things they were interested in or happened.
Now, Lulu has a question.
Lulu, what's your question, sweetheart?
She wants to know what happened to the dogs that were up here. Because we saw a dog in the picture.
There were a lot of dogs here. We have a question, what happened to the dogs up here? Well, I know little Dorothy had a time with her dog. It was always getting to Sewer Creek. And the mom wouldn't let that dog in the house until Dorothy cleaned it up. And Dad would take it up there where they had tanks big enough to put some water in.
Somebody was
Try and
here.
clean up that dog.
Something's here.
Anything interesting?
I'm here.
Okay, look right here. What does this say?
45 million.
G. Jolliday.
He died?
Died in the bullpen. And right here was his cot. There are 14 cots on this side, 14 cots on this side. And that's the only death we know of. Because there were no deaths in the mine or from working in the mine.
That's amazing.
Maybe he had a heart attack.
That's amazing during that time.
It is amazing, it is amazing. We have miners that come in and they say that's amazing.
Yeah.
Anything else on the walls? Someone's doing some adding and
Figuring, yeah,
some
I've seen that.
subtracting.
Cipher.
Right here says something.
Ciphering.
Right here. What's it say?
35
You can't read
knob. But,
It says something right there.
incorrect math. Your other guys.
It says something right here.
Okay.
Owes money to certain people.
Hey, remember I
What
told
does
you
that
they
say? Is it
took
what it say?
classes and learned about rocks and minerals?
$2.
Maybe this individual had the job of spreading halite, which is a rock salt, and so he is remembering
Davis.
the chemical composition of halite. Here's my favorite one. You almost, I think you found it. I think this is how many months this individual was here. So notice where his bed is, kind of near the stairs, kind of near the window.
Yeah.
Got some good heat pipe here. Look, that pipe doesn't run all the way up there. But look at this. Watch out for the stairway. Lots of tally marks. This must have been prime real estate right here. I'm thinking. Now, I call this the American Dream Room. The men in this room were primarily non-skilled. They were the new arrivals. They weren't the miners and engineers and welders. They were the muckers for the most part, making $6 a day. But Heine Snyder, maybe 50 years old, he was the guy who swept this out. He went up there at high grade and found his own prospect, developed it, had his own mine, got enough money, said, I'm going to the Netherlands, 5-year wife, brought back his wife and got elected to the Alaskan legislature. And this is the American dream. These men learned a skill while they were here, and they moved upwards and had a better life for themselves. You see carbide right there that came in a can? This is the stuff that went into the headlamps. And with water, it would make acetylene gas and have a light. And little Dorothy, she'd get a bunch of that stuff and go out at night and throw it on the water everywhere. Her mama didn't mind because for once she knew where Dorothy was. I'd love to throw me some of that stuff at night on some water. I bet that would be pretty. Any questions about the bullpen? Okay, I can't tell you it was odoriferous. I bet. The men had good cleanup facilities, which you're going to see, but they also had their own recipe for liniment. And it may have peppermint in it, or kerosene, anything. So it was kind of smelly sometimes. That hair tonic was pretty strong too. And that cologne.
I like being in France.
Hey, Lulu, you have any questions? I'm hot. All right. Pretty warm
I
up here,
heard
isn't it?
years ago that that's how they got perfume, because women never used to wash much.
Given us somewhere, 50 different kinds of cheap cologne. And unwashed clothes, constantly, Probably like it.
No, thank you.
Now, I already told you there was this man named Rusty Dow that brought lemons up. Dorothy always wondered why there were so many lemons up here. Well, inside the lemon crates was booze. So he drove one of the tractors. He was a swamper, which means he helped maintain them. And he was the one that brought all the lemons up. But I saw a picture of him in room number 59. And I just noticed yesterday that this was Rusty's room. Russ's room. He would later marry Rusty Dow. We're going to find out more about her later. I'm going to let you mosey on down and take photographs. Okay. Click, 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 and I'll join you when everybody is out of the building. Lulu, are you hot? Would you like to go now?
Yeah, we're going down.
Turn the light on.
Let the lead dog go.
Turn the switch right on.
Oh, she's going to stay. Did you take any pictures yet?
Yeah.
Okay, great. We're going to go where my favorite picture taking place is.
Good down here, doesn't it?
A little warm up there.
Quite a workout going up and downstairs.
I do. I have a vertical and a laterally torn meniscus. So I don't do anything halfway. I'm going to go into the bunkhouse.
See, the moose has been up here. Moose droppings. Who said there's no moose up here? Yeah, I see the evidence all over the place. Last time I was up here on the way up, we seen a moose and a calf. What, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
One blocking the kids from bike riding yesterday.
I haven't seen one yet since I've been up here. I've been up